This is a detailed account management setup in Monday.com, so you can ensure that your customers continue to spend and your team are looking after your customers. By the way, if you'd like us to help you set up Monday.com for your business, check out the link below. We would love to help. Anyway, as you can see here, I'm inside of my example Monday.com system. Now, this is Monday Sales CRM, by the way. This isn't work management. Kind of the same things can be applied to work management, but I think Sales CRM is better. There are features on Monday Sales CRM that you will need if you follow the entirety of this video. So, of course, account management is very important, making sure that your customers are being looked after, that they're being communicated with by your team, and also, most importantly, they are continuing to spend with you. Now, in this video, I'm going to walk you through an entire setup so you can track activities against your accounts, who's responsible for accounts, and their spend, total spend, and recent spend per account as well. And this will encompass a lot of other features or kind of setups within the Monday.com system. So this is probably going to be quite a long video. Apologies. Anyway, let's get started. What we're going to go ahead and do is going to create a new board. Now, we could use the core CRM boards if we wanted to. I'm not going to. I'm just going to use standard boards, well, the standard within Monday Sales CRM. So the first one we're going to want to create is our accounts board. I'm just going to call it accounts. You could call it companies, you could call it organizations if you would like to. And then we can select our privacy options. So main, private, or shareable. It's entirely up to you which one. Obviously, private means only you and select individuals have access to the accounts board. And then shareable, if you want to share this board outside of your organization, you can do. Why you would want to do that, I do not know, but you can. So I'm going to select the terminology as accounts. Again, it doesn't matter too much what you want to name it, and then go ahead and create our board. So congratulations, we've now got a board where we can store all of our accounts, whether these be active clients, prospective clients, whatever the case may be. But you can store that information here. So the first thing that I'm probably going to want to do is probably get rid of this group. So I've deleted it. I'll have all my accounts just in one group, so I don't think we need to split them up. And then I'll just change the name to all accounts. So as an example, we would have CRM Crew Limited, that's an account. And then we would have, let's say, I don't know, Apple as an account, sure, whatever, okay? And then the next thing we want to do is maybe have a status. So we might have active accounts, and then maybe inactive accounts. So we might have active, and then we might use the red for the inactive using that status column. And then we can reposition that, and we'll just delete this extra label as we do not need it. So I'll just get rid of that. There we go there. And I'll put this default label back up the top. Cool. So now we've got some account status options. Now, the next thing that we want to do is use this date column, and we'll change the name to date created. And then I want to restrict the column editing on here. And then I want to go to automate, top right hand corner, go to manage, and then create automation. And then when item created, set date to today. Set date created to today. Now, some organizations actually focus a lot more on accounts than they do deals. So a lot of businesses, obviously, they just have a sales process, right? A new lead comes in, they sell them something, that's kind of it. The deal is the focus. A lot of larger organizations, especially actually, they focus more on the account. So they'll they'll nurture an account for ages and ages, and then they'll get them to spend on loads and loads and loads of different things. Obviously, they know what they're talking about a lot more than smaller organizations do. So they'll spend a lot of time working to get an account to purchase from you. And then once they're in, then they'll look at different avenues that they can support that particular account. So the reason we want this date created to automatically populate is we can track the number of new accounts that are being created, and also the number of new accounts that are being created by person. So that's always quite useful, especially if you're in the kind of more the account management space than you are the deal management space or the deal space. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this file here as we don't need that column. And then we can go ahead and just add relevant data points for our account. So I'm just going to see what probably is going to be useful. We've got account name, industry, owner, annual value, stage, yeah, I mean, there's not a great deal to add, if I'm honest with you. I mean, you might add, let's say, status being their industry. So you can see industry. You might have their country. I don't know. So location, where are they based? There might be that their address, for example, something like that. You might hold their tax information here. So I'd have like let's say a text column, and this will be tax information. But I'm sure, in fact, I'm absolutely certain that you'll have more nuanced information that you want to track for your business. But this is just kind of like a general idea. So you might have, if you're, I don't know, hypothetically, you sell tools, like working tools or things like that, to different regions within a country. You might have their region on here. I don't know, you might have the type of business, this industry ultimately, but you've got your accounts. This is where you can manage your accounts. Now, this, again, very, very basic. So this is step one in the process, somewhere to manage our accounts. Now, the next thing that people typically want to do is manage contacts in conjunction with their accounts. So we can go ahead and add a new board, and this board is going to be contacts. And then privacy will leave as is, and then the naming will be contacts on here. And we can go ahead and create this board. This board is obviously for contacts in association with a particular account. So there might be multiple contacts within an account, and you want to be able to track all of those contacts within that account. So we can go ahead and delete this group. Again, I'm keeping this pretty straightforward. So we've got all contacts up the top here. And then in this instance, it'll be, let's say, Nick Boardman would be related to the CRM crew account. Now, I would go ahead and do the same thing with the date created. So I would restrict the column editing on here and then go to automate, top right hand corner, go to manage, create automation. When item is created, set the date created to today. Again, standard stuff. And then you can add additional data points on the contacts board as well. So let's say email, phone number, seniority, department that they work in. You've got a few more options on the contact side. So we'll go ahead and do that. Let's add an email, for example. Let's add their phone number, and then we'll have status, seniority, and then we'll also probably add status, department. Now, what you will notice, and this is quite, I prefer approaching it this way, is we would have their seniority and then have their department. We don't have their job title. The thing is, job titles vary enormously, like chief marketing officer, director of marketing, marketing manager sometimes, so they can all literally mean the same thing and have the same authority. So what I would typically do is rank their seniority by like executive and then work my way down from there all the way to that, or work my way up, sorry. And then I would have departments, so that might be marketing department, finance department, IT department, etc. So then it's a lot easier to filter and just say, show me all of my contacts with this particular seniority that work in this particular department. And then you can pull that information up quite easily. So that's, I'm not going to go through this. This is just kind of adding into our account management setup, but you're more than welcome to make changes to that or apply that idea if you would like to. We've also got the status, so we could also have, again, on contacts, inactive, and then consequently active as well if you wanted to, so active and inactive contacts. So I'll put that there and put that there, and then go ahead and then we can go ahead and delete that label as we do not need it. So that's kind of contacts and accounts. Now what we want to do is we want to create a connection column. So we want to connect our contacts board to our accounts board. So we're looking for a connection column, use connect boards, and then select the boards you want to connect to. Obviously in this instance, we're connecting to our accounts board, and we want to ensure we press create a two-way connection. So that means that it is visible on both sides. So now every single contact record will have an account associated with it. So Nick Boardman is ultimately going to be connected with CRM Crew Limited, as you can see here. However, or not however, if I then head over to my accounts board, I can see that all of the contacts associated with CRM Crew. So I can see here, and obviously the list would build up. I can click into them. I can then click into Nick Boardman. I can then see relevant information about that particular person. But obviously having all of the contacts associated with your account is really important for account management. Cool. So we've got our contacts, we have our accounts now. Now we want to start focusing on just general account management, making sure that people or our team are communicating with our accounts. So how do we do that? We're going to use a feature called activities up. Well, it's called activity. So when an activity is created, and by activity, you click into the plus button here, and you have this kind of widget. If you widget is a widget. If you can't find it, just go to edit, layout and content, and you can add the widget, and it's called emails and activities. If you are not using Monday Sales CRM, you won't have this. This is why this is quite important. Okay. So just press done editing, and then I can go ahead and add an activity. So I can add different activities in relation to this particular account, which is really important for a couple of reasons. One, it creates an activity for the future. So if you want to, let's say, add an activity to follow up with someone in 60 days time, you can do, and then you'll get reminded on that day to follow up with that particular person. Obviously, that's pretty important for account management, but also it will log the last time an activity was created against that particular account. So you can then see if there have been activities or if there have not been activities associated with a particular account. You can then speak to the account manager, ask them why there are no activities associated with that particular account, and we could create dashboards on that, which we are going to do in this video as well. So first and foremost, we need to have an activities board. So we need to create a board, and I'm going to call this activities. There we go. And select the privacy option as you wish, and then I will just select the terminology as tasks here. And this is where we're going to manage all of the activities associated with all of our different accounts. This will also then pull into our work management or the My Work page. So we've got outstanding or open activities, and then we've got completed activities. Okay, completed activities. There we go. So I will put that in the green and that in the grey. So it's either open or completed. That's pretty simple as far as I'm concerned. Completed, obviously you can expand on this if you would like to, but I don't think it's necessary to do so. So we would have just 2 stages here, I suspect. So I'm then going to go ahead and just delete the labels that we don't need. So we've got open and completed. I've then got the date created column. Again, I'm going to use that, and I'm going to go ahead and restrict the column editing. And then I'm going to add another date column, and this is going to be date completed. So this is date completed, and I'm going to go ahead and restrict the column editing on that. And then I'm going to add a formula column, and this is going to work out the difference between the date created and the date completed. Give me the difference between date created and date completed. This allows us to track, oh no, there we go, the amount of time between a task being created and a task being completed, the average amount of time it takes per person, and then we can start looking at, like, why is this person taking so much longer to complete tasks and this person is completing them really, really quickly. As an example, you can start looking at data points like that. We'll then also have another status column on the right hand side here, and this is going to be our task type. We will probably also have task due date. We would probably also have a long text column, and this will be, or I think it's called activity type. Let's keep the naming convention or naming making sense. Prevent myself from getting confused. So activity due date, activity description, we would have activity description. Activity description, hit enter, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else we might need. I might need to adjust the activities board with a few other data points at a later stage when we're setting up the integration between accounts and activities. Cool. So now we just need to set up some automations. When status changes to completed, move item to group completed and set date completed to today. When status changes to open, move item to group open. When an item is created, set date created to today. That's pretty much all we need to do. So automate, top right hand corner, manage, create automation. We'll start with when an item is created, we'll set the date created to today. So that means we know exactly when a new item is created. Also, when status changes to open, move item to group, open, create automation, very simple. And then finally, when status changes to completed, move item to group, completed, create automation. Fantastic. So now I'm just going to close this down. One other thing that is worth noting on the activity due date here is clicking the 3 dotted button and just setting this as a deadline. So we're saying that the status indicates the task completion or whether it's not completed. The date column is actually the due date, and then the person column is the person responsible for this particular task. You can see how these all connect now. So if I just press connect columns and then I select this as being the 6th, you can see that this is behind schedule. So it shows as a warning there, and I can hide the column summary and then hide the column summary. And then if I change the status to completed, it will update and say that that activity has been completed. Okay. So now we've got our activities board, we've got our contacts board, and we've got our accounts board. Obviously, people are going to be logging activities against particular accounts. So if we go to our accounts board again, what we want to do is we want to connect or set up a connection between our accounts and our activities. So when a new activity is created, it creates an activity on the activities board, but also it logs when the last activity was created in association with this particular account. Cool. It's a lot, right? So we need to go to automate, go to create automations, and then activity. We're searching for emails and activities. And then we want to click into this option and say, when an activity is created in emails and activities, create item in board. So we're just looking for that. When activity is created, there we go, that's the one. When an activity is created in emails and activities, create an item in this board and connect it to the source item. One thing I've forgotten to do actually is create a connection between the activities and the accounts. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to connect the boards. That's a very good point. I knew I would forget something. So we can create an activity in association with the accounts. I'm actually going to press create two-way connection. I would rather have a two-way connection than not have one, although I don't actually think it's going to be that necessary. So we would have, the way I would describe this is it's almost like related to. What we often do as well is on the activities connection, you'll also add a connection to, let's say, the contacts as well. So you can create an activity associated with the contact record as well. So an activity can be related to an account or it can be related to a contact, and you can see you've got your drop down of your different boards here. Obviously we're focusing on account management today, but you get the concept, right? So we go back to our accounts, try that again. Hopefully I've not forgotten anything else. I'm sure I will have. Click into our emails and activities, and then we're saying when an activity is created in emails and activities in current board, create an item in board and connect boards with column. This is the one we want, or we could actually just use this one. When an activity is created, the reason this is highlighted is because you can select the activity type, whereas the other one is just assumes that all activities are created. So when an activity is created in emails and activities, create an item in this board being the accounts board, and connect it to the source item. Why have we not got a connection to a source item? Maybe let's go back, have a look at this one. Maybe it's this one. Maybe this is the one we want. Any activity, when any activity is created in emails and activities, create an item in the accounts board is what we're looking for. I've probably got, that's the one we're looking for. And then we can map the data points from the activity to the item, and then we'll connect the accounts with the, let me think here. I suspect the issue is the naming convention. So I'm just going to put YT activities. I think the problem is I can't find it. That's what the issue we're dealing with at the moment. Activities. And then I'm going to call this YT contacts. Oh, YT account, sorry. So go to rename and then YT accounts. Hit enter. Hopefully this should work now. Try again, right? I knew it was going to be a nightmare. Emails, this will be worth it, I'm sure. So when an activity is created, this one, when any activity is created in emails and activities in current board, create an item in board, and we're looking for YT activities, the item we're going to set up in a moment, and connect YT activities with links to activities. Perfect. I knew it was just a naming convention thing. So the item needs to map data from the activity over to the item record in the activities board. So we'd have, as you can see, source item name, for example. So that's the name of the item that's related to the activity. This is what I would typically do, dash, then the activity type. The person is the activity creator. The status, we will leave, or you could map the status actually. The status is limited for, that's fine. We then have activity type, which is there. We have the activity due date, which is the start date of the activity. We then have the activity description, which is the activity content. We then have date created, date completed, and update item. This is pretty much everything that we're going to need. Okay, so we'll go ahead and press done, create automation. So now, anytime I create a new activity in association with a particular account, it's going to create a new activity record on the YT activities board and link it back as well. And I'm just going to change this to activities here, and then I'll restrict the column editing. So that's the two-way connection that we created. So press this button here, add an activity. Let's say I want a call summary. Just had a call with X person and it was really positive. We can go ahead and we can mention other people. We can pull columns from the actual item itself. And there are some templates you can add as well here. If you want to have templates for your activities, that's fine. You can also attach files, bulleted list, and also some text formatting if you're interested in any of that. The other thing to remember is you can set when this happened. So you can put this in the past if you want to. You can also put this in the future. That will adjust the positioning on the activities board as well. So we'll go ahead and press add. That's created. Oh, this is interesting. Take notes right after every call. No, thank you. So now we've just created our activity. We can head out of monday.com, go to YouTube activities, and you can see here, this has been automatically populated. The status is done. So actually what we'll do is we'll change the naming of this to done, and then we can just switch that over. So it's not completed, it's done. Because it was in the past, it's been automatically set as done. So I'll show you what I mean by that now. And I'm glad that's just been added. But you can see here, we've got the status is done. The activity type is call summary. We have the activity due date, which was automatically populated by the date that we set. We've got the activity description, and we can see what it was related to and who created the activity as well. So now we've got a means of managing the activities associated with all of our accounts, which is really, really helpful, right? So that activity was created in the past. If I now go back to our accounts, I can go ahead and create a new activity, an activity for the future. So this is going to, let's just use this custom activity type called testing. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this activity into the future. This is a future activity. And then I can go ahead and just press add here. That creates a future activity. You can see here by the dotted line that that's a future activity, okay? Whereas this is a like completed line. Is that what I'm going for? And that indicates it was in the past. So if I now go to YT activities, you can see that this is an open status, the activity due date, who it's assigned to, and what it's related to as well. If I then change the status to completed, that will then mark it as done. So now we've got a means of managing activities against accounts for the past and the future. The next thing that we want to really be thinking about is, well, how can I log or at least manage when the last activity was created in association with all of my accounts? So what I can do is I can create a new column. This is going to be a date column, and this is going to be called the last activity date. Date, hit enter. And then what we want to do is go to automate again, emails and activities, and so when an activity is created, we want to set date to today. So when an activity / email is created in emails and activities, set date to today. When activity is created in emails and activities in current board, set date to today. Let's use this one. I think this is the one that I'm going to want to use. So we click into this. When any activity is created, set the date column, the last activity date to today. So now you can see here, we've got our last activity date. What I'll do is restrict the column editing, which I'd recommend you do. So you can't have your sales reps just kind of changing the date as they see fit. And then we'll add another activity. So we'll add an activity, and let's just say this is a note, important note for the future. Hit enter. That's created a new activity record against this account. And then that should also then trigger the automation, hypothetically. I don't know why it's not run just yet. Let's see. When an activity is created in emails, an activity set last. Yeah, it should, and I'm wondering why it hasn't, set the last activity date to today. So we created an activity in the emails and activities, and it's not worked. What's going on here, Monday? This is interesting. When any activity is created in emails and activities in current board, set last active date to today. Right, okay. That might be the issue. I might have used the wrong automation. Let's just try emails and activities again. We're learning as we go here. When an activity is created in emails activities, Where are we looking? So when new email, no. When activity is created, no. Must be when an activity is created in emails. Yeah, let's use this one. Last activity date. When an activity / email is created in emails and activities, that might be the one that we wanted. In current board is the thing that has thrown me off. So I'm just going to delete this, as that might be the thing that's causing the issue. And let's go ahead and create another example activity. So let's just do testing, example, testing, activity. Hit enter. There we go. That should then populate with the last activity date. Perfect, which it has done now. So you can see 19th of August, 8:35 a.m. Fantastic. So now we can know, or now we're logging the AE activities against accounts and when the last activity was relating to a particular account. The next thing that we can do is we can create a formula column, and this is where it gets a little bit more exciting, right? So formula, and this formula column can track the number of days since the last activity date. So in the AI assistant, I'm just going to say, give me the number of days since the last activity date. Hit enter. This will then work out how many days. So you can see day, last activity date, set formula. So it's 0.01. What I would say is just round it to the nearest day. Because we're using the time as well, Monday does get a little bit weird. So you can see here, set formula, and it's a 0. If I then change this to the 18th, it's 1. And then if I change this to the 7th, or it's 12 days, as you can see. Days since last activity. Cool. So now I'm just going to hide the column summary on there and then restrict the column editing. We've got the last activity date and the number of days since the last activity. What we can now do is we can create dashboards and we can create views, and we can see all of our accounts with, let's say, as an example, add a new view, 60 days, no activity, 60 days, no activity accounts. Hit enter. So now I can add a filter and say, show me only where days since last activity is equal to or greater than, let's say, 60 days, and then just press save to this view. So it's going to show me all of my accounts where there's not been any activity in the last 60 days or greater. If I then change this to the 1st of April, that will then update on here. I can see that CRM Crew Limited, nothing has been going on for 140 days. This is then beneficial because I could then see who is the owner of this particular account. I could then, if I wanted to, I could, start grouping by different data points. Also, I can report on this information as well. And I'll come on to setting some dashboards up in a moment's time. So let's just have a look at our activities. You can see we've got all of the activities that we've been messing around with today so far. This also applies for contacts, by the way, because obviously we set it up and you can set it up with contacts. The only real reason I wanted to show you contacts was the connection with the account. The next thing that we're going to want to look at is deal volume by account. Okay, so we're going to have to go ahead and create another board. So this is going to be a board and it's going to be our deals board. So this is sales, okay, sales only. So create our deals board, privacy options entirely up to you. And then I'm just going to name this deals and then create board. The purpose of this, and I'm going to just speed run through the deal board setup, is we can see total client value. So how much has your account spent in total? And also your account spend in the last 60, 90, 180, last year, whatever the case may be. So I'm just, again, we'll speed run this. This is by no stretch of the imagination a perfect deal set up inside of Monday.com. But we'll go, let's say, let's just check this is working. Yeah, it's working. So we'll say new deals, and then we'll say active deals, deals, and then we'll go one deals. And then we'll go lost deals. Again, close one, close lost, active, new, right? Very simple. So then we just update the status options. So we've got lost, new, active, and we'll have one. Reposition accordingly, lost down here, active as the purple, new, active, one, lost, apply. We have, and this is an important one, they created, and then we can restrict the column editing. and then we got date closed. So either close won or close lost, but we still want to track that, so date closed. And then I would again restrict the column editing on here. There we go. And then I would have a formula, which is TTC, time to close. So what's the average amount of time it takes for a deal to close? And then again, AI assistant, difference in days between date created and date completed. Hit enter. So now we can insert that, and we know if it's on the 19th and this takes 17 days to close, for example, we can then get an average. We can then get an average by account if we wanted to. So you can get sophisticated with it. But the important thing that we want here is a numbers column. Okay, numbers. And then we can go here, numbers, and then we can go deal value. And then we'll make this into the $sign. And then if I put this as 50K as an example here. And then the other really important thing is we connect our deals to our accounts. So connect boards, and then we select the board and we want to connect it to our YT accounts. And it's important, again, we create a two-way connection here. So account associated with this deal. Now, of course, you would probably also connect it to the contact as well. You could connect it to the contact, which would then connect to the account. I prefer doing it this way. So let's say that this particular deal is for CRM Crew Limited, okay? And the value is 50,000. What we then want to look at is the total amount of deals associated with this account first. So this is quite easy. We'll then go to our YT accounts. You can see we've got our deals connection. So we've got deals. This is pulling across all deals associated with this account. We can add a mirror column to the right, and this is going to pull across total deal value. So we can mirror across the total deal value. This is all deals associated with this account. So total deal value. So all deals that have been associated with this account all time. Okay. The next thing that I would then want to do is I would want to see the total value of all of the deals that have been won associated with this particular account. So then we would create a formula column, and this formula column would say, show me in the AI assistant, show me the deal value only where status is equal to 1. So we're saying, show me the deal value, but only if the status is 1. Otherwise, I don't want to see the deal value. So we would say 1 value, hit enter. Now, if I then change this status to 1, you can see that the value is 50,000. I'm going to set this as a $sign again, and then I'm going to hide the column summary and also just restrict the column editing, just stop people from messing around with this particular column. This is then helpful because I can see, and if I just imagine there's an automation that moves that down, right? Go to my accounts board, I can then mirror across the 1 value for this particular account. So deals, and then it's the 1 value, and I want the sum, 1 value, 1 value. Yeah, that would do. So then I've got the total 1 value for this particular account. So I can see all of the deals associated with this account. And then I can see the total 1 value of this account. I'll just change that to total 1 value for this account. And then we can go ahead and keep that there. If I then go back to my deals and I'll add another deal associated with this account. Let's say this is 80,000. And then the status is active, so it's not 1. I can then go YT accounts. I can see that my total deal value is 130,000. My total 1 value is 50,000. And then I can work out the deals or the most recent deal. So the last time there was a deal associated with this account. So what I can do is go to date created, which is this important data point here, go to YT accounts, and then I could go mirror again. And I'm going to mirror over the date created. So we're going to go deals, mirror over the date created. And then we just want the latest, so the most recent deal. Last deal created against this particular account. Okay. So then we have that data available. But we have ultimately our total deal value, our total 1 value, our last created date. So last deal created date. And then what we can do is, in the same way we have days since last activity, we could say formula days since last deal. And then we could go ahead and say, give me the number of days since the last deal. and hit enter there. And then we've got last deal created, set formula. And then I could just say round to the nearest day, again, using the AI feature that we have here, and then set formula. So now it's going to give me days since last deal. So now we're really beginning to get into like our account management groove here, because we can now see the day since the last activity and the day since the last deal. If I click into this and let's say I change this one because it's the most recent one, or let's just go back here and say this was the 6th as an example. I know then the 17th will be the last one, and that should give me 2 days. I can then say 60 days since no activity. I can say 180 days since what am I saying? 60 days, 180 days since the last deal. Now, the other thing that we're going to want to do, we're not finished yet. We want to see the number value, so the total value of deals that have been won for this account in the last year. So we've got our one value here, and then what we also want to do is one value in the last year. So it would be give me the deal value only where status is 1 and date closed is in the last year, or 365 days. Hit enter. So now I want to see the total spend for this account in the last year. So then insert the formula, and if states days today, date closed, less than 365, deal value. Yeah, cool. Nice. So we've got deal value, or last 365 days spend. Hit enter. We can hide the column summary, and then we can let's show the column summary a second, just so I can set this as a $sign, and then hide the column summary, and then restrict the column editing, and we've got then last 365 days spend. So now I can mirror that over as well. This will give me the total amount of spend in the last 365 days for this particular account. So I'll mirror this over, and then we've got mirror, connect, deals, last 365 day spend, last 365 day spend. This will give me all of the spend for this account in the last 365 days. Now, you can then set KPIs for this. So you can say, right, well, we at a minimum want each of our accounts to be spending $100,000 with us a year. You can then set KPIs. You can then break down the KPIs by the owner of the account, and you'll be able to see which account managers are underperforming or overperforming. Okay. Well, overperforming is definitely not going to be a bad thing, but if people are not getting their accounts to spend, then you'll be able to see that. So you can see you've got 50,000 by account, and you see by owner as well. And then you can work out if people are spending less or they are spending more than they should be. So now we have our account set up. We've got our contact set up. How useful that was, I don't know. We then have our activities, which obviously really important. And then we've got our deals as well. And we're pulling in all of this information. Now, finally, the final piece of the puzzle for account management. And again, this could be refined, of course. It's general. It's not nuanced to your business, not specific to your business. This could be refined, but we can go ahead and add dashboards now. So we can say accounts management dashboard, and we'll go ahead and create, and obviously you've got privacy options. We'll go ahead and create some dashboards for our account management. So let's go ahead and just put in the YT accounts board for the time being, as I don't really think we're going to need anything else. Okay. Now let's go ahead and add a widget. Now the first widget I want to see is the accounts by account per our target spend for the year. So we're going to go account spend this year, or last 365 days, probably more applicable, because that works in line with our formulas that we've set up. So we go settings, and then our chart type is going to be a bar graph. Our x-axis in this instance is going to be the name of the account. So we've got CRM Crew, Apple, item 3, whatever. Then our y-axis is going to be last 365 day spend, and then we want the sum. We don't really want anything else. We can edit the colors if we want to, fancy stuff like that. But then we can go ahead and we can set our minimum amount as, let's say, 100,000. Oh, there we go. And then minimum spend. There we go. And then we can go ahead and add another benchmark line, which would be green. Let's say this is 150 optimal spend. and that's in red. I think that's 15,000. So there we go, 150,000. So now we can see all of our accounts that we have by the total spend in the last 365 165 days against our minimum spend, and also what we're kind of shooting for, which is obviously our optimal spend. If I could just go to benchmark lines, it appears I've forgotten a capital letter there. So we've got our minimum spend, optimal spend, and where we're at by account. Now, if I then go to deals and I create a new deal, and let's say this one, and connect this with Apple, and obviously Apple got big money, right? 500,000. And then I change the status of this to 1. This will then update on here. It will then update to reflect, or at least it should. If we go to our accounts, you can see Apple connected, 500,000 total deal value. And then we go back to our account management. This should have updated. Why is it not? Is it not in the last 365 days? Is that the issue? So, that's why, because it's not got a date closed associated with it. So let's just say that this was the 13th, and let's move that into that group here, account management. So now we can see Apple has massively outspent our targets, right? So that's quite helpful. So then the next report that we want to look at is any accounts, or the number of accounts where there has been activity or no activity in the last 60 days. Okay. So we can go ahead and create a chart here. Now I'll reposition this, and then we'll go settings. And then what we want to do is our y-axis is going to be let's say just the name of the account, and our y-axis. So that's our x-axis, and our y-axis is days since last activity. And then we want to filter and say only where the days since last activity is equal to or greater than 60 days. Cool. So it's only going to show me my companies or accounts with no activity last 60 days. And I can see the last activity associated with CRM Crew, apparently, and I don't think this is right, actually. We go to customize, y-axis. We want the minimum, don't we? I think the median, the minimum, the average. Yeah, this doesn't sound right to me. 140 days since last activity for this one. Is that true? Yeah, it is true. Okay, my bad. So what we can do, settings, let's just go back to customize on here, making a right mess of this now. So we've got our sum. Yeah, okay, that sounds about right. So, and then if we go ahead and add, let's say, or we work with Apple as well, and we had an activity with them on the 12th, so the 7th, that shouldn't then feed through. However, if we had this, let's say 2 months ago, back in June even, that should then show on here, and we can see that last day since last activity with Apple was 69 days. Now, I think what we could do is actually get a little bit more sophisticated, and we can make this a stack bar graph. Our x-axis is going to be the person. We'll stack it by the name of the account, then our y-axis will remain the same. So now I will be able to see, if I go to my YT accounts and I assign myself to Apple as well, my accounts, and what I can also do, and it's getting really complicated now, stack by, make this an expanded stack. So I can see my person, and then for each person, the number of accounts with no activity in the last 60 days. So I can see I've been pretty lazy, and obviously this will build out with more people that you have, and you'll be able to track all of that information as well. Cool. So we're building on this. Now, I'm just going to show you one final report. These are obviously quite complicated, and there's a lot of nuance to this. But if we go to our YT accounts, last activity day, last day since last activity, we've got day since last deal. I think this might be quite helpful as well. And then we got total one value by account. So let's do two. Let's do total one value by account. So this is a really easy one. It's just going to be a chart, one value by account. In last 365 days, hit enter, and then we can do settings. Actually, well, we do a very similar thing to what we've just done. So x-axis is going to be the person, and then the stack by is going to be the company name, and then the y-axis in this case is going to be last 365 day spend, and then we'll just make this an expanded stack again, and then we can see per person. Actually, this actually probably makes more sense as a not expanded stack, so we can just see the total amount that each person is generating. So I can see Apple, I'm an owner of the account Apple, and Apple spent 500k with us and the CRM crew, but that gives us a total of 550,000. Now if I go to this one, let's just call this Microsoft as an example, and I assign Alex to this one, and then let's just throw in a deal. So Alex has won a deal, nice one. So we'll just say 14th, deal was won, account was Apple, Microsoft, sorry. Yeah, there we go. And then his spend was, let's just do 1 million, 1.2 million. So Alex has smashed that out the park. We can then go to our account management. You can see that Alex in the last 365 days has generated 1.2 million from the Microsoft account. Fantastic. Awesome. Well done, Alex. If only that was true. Eh? If only that was true. So we've then got that. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about was days since last deal. But actually, does that matter? Maybe. Let's do that. So we'll say, and this is probably going to be quite useful. We'll do another chart. And it's going to be accounts with over 365 days since last deal. So we can see the number of accounts accounts with over 365 days since last deal. Very simple. By owner as well. By owner. So now, again, we can start looking at people and saying, right, what's going on? Because we can see our person, and then we can say our stack by. Stack by is, what are we looking for? Stack by the name of the account, and then the y-axis in this instance is going to be days since last deal, and then we want to filter, and we want to say days since last deal is equal to or greater than 365, and then press save to filters. So now I can see all of my accounts with over 365 days since the last deal by owner. If I then go to my deals, and let's just add one, date closed, and let's just go to 2023 and just set that one. So yeah, there we go. Days since last deals minus 699. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Whatever. And then we go account management. Why is that not showing up? Let's go to our YT account. Days since last deal is being pulled from last deal created date. Last deal created date. Whoops. So how do I? Let's go to deals. Just think about this. Let's just remove that one. So that's the only one associated with CRM Crew. That should now, why is it not showing? 13 days. It's date created. Yeah, does that sound right? Date created or date. That's why. Because I said the date closed, not the date created. That's where I went horribly wrong. Two factors there causing the issues. So now it should show. You can see the CRM Crew Limited, that's owned by Nick Boardman, is actually the last deal was 749 days. I know this is an enormous amount to take in. I suspect there are not many businesses that have this level of setup. I mean, it's quite comprehensive, if I'm honest with you. I mean, I might be wrong. I might be completely wrong. But this is fantastic for account management. This can also be expanded beyond belief. This is just getting into what I think would be useful for you to maybe know and learn and blah, 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 whatever else. If you would like us to help you do anything like this with Monday.com, check out the link below. We would absolutely love to help. We do this day in, day out. If you have questions, concerns, queries, requests, drop a comment below this video. I'll do my absolute best to answer any questions you do have. If it's a fantastic question and there's a lot of meat on the bone, so to speak, and there's a lot of content around that, I will make a video answering your question. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Goodbye.